traditional Zulu manly name, you know, and he's the gay character. And it was so important for me to do that because a lot of the narratives, sometimes when you listen, it's always, oh, being gay is un-African. And yet, suddenly I can talk about in my grandmother's village, in my maternal grandmother's village in Zimbabwe, that there was always that one uncle who never got married, and he had a very good male friend who would always come and visit. And there was that widowed aunt who never remarried, and she had a very close female friend. So I was thinking, is it really, you know? Or is it just that it wasn't talked about, but people were in relationships, you know? So that's what I wanted to explore, given the fact that, okay, in South Africa, the law is favorable, but there's still a lot of homophobia. As you guys might have heard about, there is something called corrective rape for lesbians. And I have known quite a few male friends who are gay who have been raped by so-called macho, you know, straight men. And I'm not sure what that's supposed to do when they claim that, you know, they are straight.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, BC, what do you think the role of popular culture, what role does popular culture has to play in helping us to rethink and reshape our ideas of multiple sexualities on the continent?
I think the most recent example would be the protest in Nigeria. I think it's happening in Lagos, and I saw this picture of Lagos lawmakers standing in front of the Lagos National Assembly saying, we want to stop the showing of Jess. And I don't know how many of you know Jess. So this is the story of a young transgender girl in the US who wants to transition in the presence of everybody. So she wants to become a girl, but she wants the process of becoming a girl transmitted on TV. And DSTV bought the license to show the program globally, and most especially in Africa. And they're showing it on DSTV in Nigeria, and Nigerian freaked out because they think that a young person transitioning on TV will make every Nigerian become a transgender. Yeah, but it's interesting because you look at the emerging culture
Materials that represent gay characters.
I think I've been doing that with a lot of stories. I do think that
help in terms of the West and their own process rethinking homosexuality. Do you think they might have a more inclusive approach to LGBT people?
Oh, well, you know, I think there's just, when I was coming in at Mutala Mohammed, we had some guy accosting us and asking, are you from South Africa? And I said, yes. And he said, have you come to TB Joshua? You know, so, and I said, you know, I say yes. And then later on, we saw, we saw the transport guy and we came through Afulabi. But the thing about it is, even in South Africa, like in the constitution, fortunately, it was one of the most important things that happened, because I'm pretty certain if there had been a vote in South Africa on whether homosexuality should be allowed or not, that vote would not have passed. So it was a good thing that constitutionally somehow they decided not to put it to the vote. Otherwise it would have been very difficult. Yeah. So I think we can certainly learn from each other, you know, but our politicians in both countries are very hard-headed, and instead of realizing that they're the two biggest economies on the continent and that they can synergize, you know, and work better with each other and work together, they tend not to do it. So for instance, I imagine even if Tears wants to go and do a workshop in South Africa, it's going to be so difficult for them to get visas, you know? It's what we do to each other.
And I just really want to just chip into that, and I quite agree with what you said about the process that it took in South Africa. As for me, I feel personally upset about the fact that the equal marriage and the equal opportunity law in South Africa was forced on the people rather than carry the people along to understand why it is needed. And that is why we have such a huge crisis. It's an epidemic in South Africa. You know, just last year, you know, there were over 10 men, over 10 gay men that were killed like every other week in a particular style all over the country. And the increasing rate at which lesbians were raped. And it's just like these people that you gave this, the most beautiful, the most powerful, the most inclusive law in the world. It's like a treasure that they have. They don't understand it because they never worked hard for it. And I think what is going to be the most beautiful thing about Nigeria is when we have it, because it's not if, it's when. We're going to have it, whether people like it or not. And I don't want to have that conversation. We are going to have equal rights for every Nigerian in Nigeria. That is a fact. But when we have it, it will be that Nigerians demanded for it. And by that way, we will cherish it, we will love it, and we will defend it with our lives. And I think that's what is missing in South Africa.
Thank you so much, Bisi. We're going to open it to the floor very quickly. We're running out of time, I'm told. Over there, Chinelo. Chinelo, when you finish, pass it along.
Good evening, everyone. The name is Chinelo Oala, I'm a writer. I did want to ask a question, and this is something I've noticed in other narratives of gay and lesbian, LGBTI narratives in countries like Nigeria and India. When I was watching the documentary, I noticed that almost all the gay people featured in the documentary were men. And I'm looking at this panel now, and I noticed that all the people who are openly gay on this panel are male. And I'm wondering why, because I don't want to resort to easy answers or easy, stereotypes or generalizations, but I do want to know, why is it that it seems that the face of LGBTI activism in this country and in some other countries in the world seems to be particularly male? Are there social issues behind that, or question?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Captain Bolaga Tijan. I watched the documentary with rapt attention, and I have observations about it, especially the legal aspects where the lawyer talk about the fact that why should somebody criminalize issue of marriage. But I want to draw our attention to the fact that the criminality about marriage is already in our Matrimonial Causes Act, and it is a crime to marry two wives in our law in Nigeria. But I want us to be very, very careful the way we can issue of issue of same-sex marriage, because this is our country, this is our culture. What we don't do, we will not allow the few minority to impose their own ambition or their willingness on us. Because if we allow the few minorities, if you allow the few minority having their ways, and that is why we are having the issue of Boko Haram today. These few minority want to force their own doctrine on us. I think it is not fair, it is not good. This is how we do our things. Please let us continue. We're Africans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just here. No boring, please. Just here. Here.
Good evening, everyone. I am Oyun Ludikbe. And as a graduate of mass communication, somewhere along this discourse, I am yet to reconcile myself with something, and I need help. And as a student of communication, I was taught that the message is in the receiver and not in the sender. And I think it's quite applicable to literature in the sense that there is a need to understand, to discuss the dynamics of the dialogue that the reader must have with the writer's work. What I am saying in essence is this. For those of us literary artists or writers who have taken it upon ourselves to, as we have proposed here, represent queer characters in our works, to uphold the notion of diversity in our works, there is a problem here, and that is the mind of the reader, of the average reader, that is ready set up against a literature that wants to talk about homosexuality. When I was in undergrad level in school, in the university, okay, what I am asking is this: how do we discuss the dynamics of dialogue between the reader who is, should I say, eternally biased, strongly biased, the dialogue he has to make with the literature that proposes a new idea to him? Because it's not just in the writing, but in the understanding of the reader. So how do we discuss that?
Thank you very much. Can you pass it on to Tina, please? Can you raise your hand, please? Yes. And then we'll take the questions.
Hello, good evening. My name is Toby. First of all, my question is simple. I have always said it's not the work of the writer to educate his audience, but I need to ask, how exactly do you think your work, in essence, is going to change the perception among Africans in general? Because we need to say it, we do not learn quickly, we do not learn, period.
What's happening outside. So I think it's a very good idea to bring in some, local activities so that you have a better idea of where you are.
Algeria market. There I go.
you got a mustache. She was so proud. And I was so sad. I grabbed the first pair of scissors, nail scissors that I found, and just went through meticulously to every single hair that I had on my top lip and got rid of it. For my discontent, in less than a week, it was back again. I didn't even know how to use a razor. My father didn't even have the macho conversations with me. But yeah, sacrifices.
Well, you mentioned your father, and that's another very important question, I think, because we forget that it's not only Imani who went through this. She has a father, a mother, a brother, and a sister. What was the impact on your family? Were you lucky? Did you have immediate acceptance? Were there traumas? How was it?
I have lost my father 6 years ago, and I was going through the transition. He actually died without knowing that I was transitioning. It was only a year later that I had the guts to speak to my mother over the phone and tell about the decision I have made. But when I was a teenager, I was so religious, you know, and it was so hard because then you have this fight inside you about what you feel and about what you're told of what is right and what is wrong. And I was very frustrated because not even to my close friends I could say I'm gay. And there was not even anybody around of the same age that I could relate to. There was not much. I remember I was actually 10 years old, and there was this Brazilian soap opera going on TV, and it was about this married man who was gay, and he was having an affair with another man. And it was the first time in my life that I heard the word homosexual. And I asked my parents, what does it mean? What is homosexual? And they just pretended I didn't say anything. And it was pure silence. Then I was like, okay, I think there's something to do with me. Because when I was a teenager, I just said, okay, it's crazy to have to change my body. I think it's a huge sin. But then I kept forgetting that. Boys, and was not able to show my emotions or to show my feelings because I was trying to.
Did you actually think at some point that you were gay?
I just convinced myself I was gay. But then there was the thing, there was no information. And then there was nobody that could understand me, that I could talk to. So even though I felt like a girl, I said, well, maybe I'm just a gay who is very in touch with the feminine side. But yeah, it was until I moved to London, and within 3 years working as a female impersonator, that I was like, you know, something's not right. There's a huge gap here that needs to be filled. And I was really depressed because then I was really unhappy with the way I looked. I was really unhappy with the way I was treated when I was not on stage. So stage was the way of running away from everything. Entertaining people and bringing a smile to everyone was a dream. Was a dream that came true, but at the same time it was a way of running away from reality. Until I had to step up and say, I need to do something about it.
Wow. Well, I could ask you a million more questions, but I don't want to be unfair. I'm sure there are many questions in the audience. So if we can have hands going up, please. And if you're slow about it, I'm going to ask my next question. So
that yes, I am a female, and I can be physically attractive. You know, I like to practice sports. You know, if my body is slightly more defined, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me less of a woman. But this is the conflict. Actually, it happens most of the time when you're transitioning, because you're actually fighting to erase any sort of male signs that you have in your body, because you want to come across as the woman you feel, which is normal. In my case now, I don't have the need to do that. You know, I am a woman to myself. I love who I am, and this is all I need. So yeah. Now working on TV, working as an artist, be able to being in the public eye, that when you believe in your abilities and when you believe that you can do something positive, either as a person or as a professional, then people will start to notice what you can do and what you can give. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I was humble enough to knock doors and to ask people, so yes, I can do this. Can you give me the chance? I write chronicles for for a newspaper, and it was during an interview with the director of the paper, which that interview was not allowed to be featured. And then I asked, I said, I write, can I write for you? And he said, well, send us something. And I'm still writing for them now, today. So it's like, can I, there was 2 years ago, we celebrate at the Women's International Day. It's a huge thing back home because women are so empowered in Angola. So we have many, many events related to women. And we have always group art exhibitions that only female artists can exhibit. And I ran into this gallery owner and I said, it was like 3 days before the actual opening, and I said, can I participate? And she said, yes, we have space. I'm not sure if she was aware of not of who I was, but she gave me the chance. Today, she shows that it didn't make much of a difference if she knew then. So yesterday, funny enough, there was actually a group exhibition that only female artists could exhibit, and I'm part of that exhibition. So I was invited to be part of this exhibition. I have already been invited to be part of the group exhibition for female artists for next year. So yes, I see myself as a woman. I see myself as a competent professional. So the rest of the people see myself as. So that's how they give me the chances.
Whatever. Lady on the left.
Hi, name's Chinelo. I wanted to ask you about privilege, and I think there was a question on the earlier panel that sort of touched on this. There's an understanding that in African society, in many societies across Africa, one has inherent privilege in the fact of maleness, of being born male at birth, as well as privileges that are inherited from our colonial past, in which if you have a mother or a father or an ancestor who is, white or of another race, you also have a light skin privilege in many societies. And I'd like to ask you your relationship with maybe some of the inherent privileges that you might have had, having been born male and having been born light-skinned as well.
Thank you. It does still strike me regarding the in certain African countries, the advantage of having lighter skin. Because in my country, I mean, it's so, we have it's very mixed. So you very easily bump into a light-skinned person. And it doesn't really work that much in my country. I don't really feel, both on TV or doesn't matter what, where you work, you always have mixed race, you have black people working together. And I don't really feel that I have been privileged because of my skin. I really believe that it's a privilege to be a woman in Angola because women are so empowered and women have such good position in society. Women are seen as strong beings that can do everything they can, and they can do everything they want. Girls are told that they need to study. Girls are told that they need to work to become somebody. So we actually grow up with this, mentality that yes,
being male or female in Angola, you have the right to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, hello. I have 4 questions. I'll be very fast, I'm sorry. They're very short, very short. And I'm sorry if it sounds a bit ignorant, but I'm just trying to understand. The first one is, okay, we do know that there are men who are effeminate, and they're obviously homosexuals, and they feel like they are female inside of them, but they don't exactly go the whole length of, changing who they are. How deep was your need to do that? You could have well just been a man with effeminate features, and that would be fine. There's so many people like that. They paint their nails, they wear earrings, and they have same-sex relationships without actually going the whole 9 yards to change their physical look. That's the first
before
one.
you go to the second question, can I just answer that?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I mean, first, we need to ask every single individual or gay male who is effeminate if they actually are happy remaining a gay man who is effeminate, or if they actually don't go through the transition because they also don't have the information that they need to actually take that step. Because I have gay friends who are effeminate, and they said, yes, I'm happy being a male. I recognize that I am a male and I am just effeminate. I don't want to be a woman. I don't see myself as a woman, even though they can move and talk in a certain way. So, and there is actually gay men who, slowly, because this is something that is so strong that is inside you that sometimes you cannot control it. I mean, when I was a child, I could not see a pair of high heels. I had to put my feet in it. I have ruined my mom's shoes, and because it was something that it was inside me saying, it's part of you. It's what you need. And a lot of men, especially in third world countries where there is no help, there is no support, and there's no information, a lot of gay men, like I was back then, prefer to believe, not prefer, they don't have other choices. They just believe that they are gay until they encounter the chance to learn more about gender identity, and then they know that they have to make another choice.
All right, thank you.
1 second, I'll let you have a second question, but then we'll need to go around. Then if your question hasn't, no, I'll let you have a second. Okay. But after that, we'll move around. Then if you still have that question, it hasn't been answered, we'll come back to you later. We'll see how we go.
We do know that we suffer female inequality issues in Africa. I mean, you talked about Angola being empowered, where I don't know that much in Nigeria and other states. We watched the documentary yesterday of women raped. We are holding the short end of a stick. There is nothing glamorous about being a woman in Africa, and that is why people like us, we're feminists, we are always fighting for equality. They call us criminals, they call us angry bitches and all of that, but we still fight because we don't want our children to inherit the kind of society that we have. I don't know what would ever attract somebody, but I think you've answered that question. But where do you find yourself in all of this, in all of the female issues that we face in Africa, where we are trying to say that young girls, they deserve education. If you don't want to be married, you don't have to be married. You don't have to follow any kind of script. So since you're part of our agenda now, where do you find yourself? Thank you.
It's a very interesting question, thank you. Well, as I said, it's still shocking. Obviously, my country went through civil war as well, and during that period, a lot of women were mistreated. Women in villages, yes, they were gang raped as well. There's something we cannot deny. I mean, there is still, in Angola, there is, even in the big cities, women go through domestic violence. Even in the first world countries, women go through a lot of pain. But also, women have a voice. It's not that women are forced to become slaves and submissive to men. that in our society, it's something women have the advantage of making choices. If you want to live on your own, I mean, I'm on my mid-30s. I actually being pressured, you know, as most African countries will do. I mean, people don't even ask me why you decided to become a woman. People now ask me, when are we going to a wedding? I was like, well, give me a man that I think is suitable. But we have this advantage in my country, and I can proudly say, even though there is still some things to be done, still there is organizations that keep reminding women that you should not suffer on your own. There is help. The government can help. I mean, in my country, in the newspaper, every single day, you have a full page with advertising regarding domestic violence and what you can do to run away from that trap. So we actually working every single day. And men, you know, the government, it's working with all the organizations. Just recently, the female farmers as well, they started receiving allowances to be able to work and to be able to make their own, to grow their own goods. So we are working every single day for women to remain the queen that we all believe we are.
I think we can also forgive you even if you don't become an active feminist, because I think you've got some battles to fight that and you are carrying the torch too. Interesting question, but she's fighting a big battle and she's doing it great. We have a gentleman down the front here.
My name is Michael. I'm actually an LGBT activist. My question is about the emerging issue of trans persons in Africa and also in Nigeria here. I just wanted to know, how do you relate with the trans community as a hero within that, so that we can move from the victim to the heroes?
Back home, I am the spokesperson of an organization that works with human rights. They work with different issues, education, children, and they actually asked me 3 years ago if I could join them. And I said yes, because I thought, you know, having that support, and it's even an organization that is run by heterosexual males, which is even more interesting, because they do believe that we all equals. And with that support, then we are starting actually workshops next year in universities, because we want to actually educate. I mean, you can't really judge somebody who does not, who judges you for not understanding you. So you have to educate them and tell them what we go through for us to stand the way we do. There is IRIS, which is a LGBT organization, and we are, you know, holding hands because we are on the same boat. We don't see, I don't see myself as a victim, because as I said, people, you know, when there is phobia, it's the fear of something you don't know. So we have to make sure that people are aware of what it is for them to understand. Because I always say, it's about sometimes our ego, it's what wants us to be accepted. The most important thing is for you to accept yourself. What we ask is not just acceptance. For me, acceptance, it's, as I said, is who you have to do. You have to deal with yourself first. Respect is the most important thing. I mean, either for a different religion or a different social status, age, gender, I mean, respect, it's what should come first. And obviously, what we want to do is teach gay, lesbians, and transgender to respect themselves. This way, everybody will respect you. In life, you get what you give. But for you to give, you need to have it first. So you need to love and respect yourself. You love and respect the others, and then you have the respect and love back.
Thank you. The lady earlier talked about privilege. I am light-skinned, but the privilege I also have is I'm holding a microphone, so I'm going to squeeze in an extra question for me, and then we'll come to that gentleman there. Tell us about your TV show. What kind of show is it?
Well, I was actually I was hired for the third season to, it's a very interesting TV show, which is a panel of 5 women, and I'm the moderator. And the other 4 women, they basically representing different women in Angolan society. So you have a woman who's intellectual, you have another woman who's conservative, you have another woman who's very outspoken and brutally honest. And then every single week we will have issues that had to do with our society, such as homosexuality was actually the first issue that we picked while I was hosting. And we had other issues such as domestic violence and serious issues, but at the same time, in a very light, sometimes humorous way, we exchange ideas, we discuss.
And they have to stay in character as they present their opinion.
Well, they have to be themselves. They have to be honest. That's what the show is about. And the title is What They Think, or What the Women Think. So we, every single week, telling the country what we think about certain issues. And it's very important because that me being in the middle between those 4 women and be able to get their points of view on different issues, social issues, it just educated people at home that first, the woman in the middle is able to do the job, just like another woman, if it was born with a pair of ovaries, would, as I say. And then, I'm professional enough to do the job properly that every single week we will actually have a conversation that would make people at home think about their points of view on certain issues. So it was an amazing experience. It was an amazing adventure. I have learned a lot, and I have grown up as a person and as a woman, if you like.
Great. The gentleman wearing purple here. And then when you finish, could you hand it to the man in front?
Okay, good evening. My name is Agbomire. I want to bring forward a concern or an opinion that's out there. Disclaimer, I don't abide by it. But people believe that hearing about these different sexual states and orientations can cause people to want to copy and behave like that. I think that that's why there is a phobia or the hate that we talk about, because people feel that if the gay agenda becomes a front burner topic, some people just, hey, let me go and try to be gay. So, so how do we balance all this? How do we get people to understand that you believe that this is what you are, and then you are not trying to make people copy you? Or, I mean, the nature and scent like this debate, how do we balance it so that this story will now be like, okay, this is what it is?
I mean, in my opinion, I think that gender identity and sexual orientation are subjects that should be put in schools regarding to sexual education. Obviously, it's through education, it's information that will make people actually know the differences. Because, and I need to correct again, gender identity has nothing to do with sexual orientation. The simple fact that I have changed from male to female, it doesn't mean necessarily that I'll have to feel sexually attracted to male. I could have been a lesbian right now. I mean, I could have still, Caitlyn Jenner, just because she changed from male to female, it doesn't make her heterosexual. She still fancies women. So a lot of people go, oh my God, but why then you're going to change if that's the thing that people need to understand and actually separate. Sexual orientation is one thing, gender identity it's another. The way I feel Has nothing to do with who I feel sexually attracted to. Two completely different things. And nobody copies. Nobody wants to become transgender or gay or lesbian because someone is. In this case, then why nobody could convince me to become an heterosexual male when I was a male? Because it's nature. It's or you are or you're not. I mean, I didn't wake up one day and say, I want to be like Barbie. No, it's something that I always felt, and it's something that it was natural to me. Nobody told me, oh, try on a dress. I tried a dress because I felt that that's where I belong. Nobody told me put on a lipstick. I had a mother and I had a father, so why didn't I copy my father? Why didn't I copy my brother? I decided to copy my sister and my mother because these are the people who I identified myself with, always.
Gentleman in front.
I had two questions. The first one was, what art form do you practice? Because you referred to yourself as an artist. And the second one was, for your transition, did you have to do some fundraising, or did you get help from your family? Or because I understand it's a very expensive process.
Well, I work as a contemporary artist. I'm a painter. When it comes to the transition, I was lucky enough to live in the UK then. I mean, I still live in the UK. For professional reasons, I'm back and forth. But obviously, the National Health Services, they do, it's a long process, but then there is this huge support that you get the information you need, and you get the support from, psychiatrists as well, who actually help you understand, when you need, where you need to get, and make you understand that if that's exactly what you want. And that was extremely helpful. I mean, I was so desperate that I started with my hormone therapy without any prescription, which is not something that you advise anybody. I was lucky enough that my body responded very well to the therapy. But that's the desperation.